Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Leffler. Oh, it has been a week. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been, as they say, a week. So much has happened in the past 7 days. Oh, let's talk about it. Now, in a few minutes, I'll be joined by a really good friend of mine, Tyler Harden, Chief Product Officer for TTN Fleet Solutions, one of the largest service networks for heavy-duty equipment in the United States. Beautiful history, great company, and I'm excited to talk about some other cool things that'll be happening relatively soon in our business. International Roadcheck is coming May 14th, 15th, and 16th. We'll talk about that. But I got to start off, as always, with a call out to my friends. Oh, who are my friends, you ask? Well, it's DAT. We got a hat. We got that hat. And it's right there, DAT. Dial a truck. Since 1978, DAT has been helping truckers find profitable loads, helping brokers move freight safely, on time, and undamaged across the country. It is not easy moving freight. Even in the best conditions, this business is brutal. Driving a truck remains one of the most dangerous jobs in all of the United States, and yet is one of the most common jobs for so many people. This is why we're so grateful for our partnership with DAT. They are a company that shares our value of trying to help truckers, get home in the same condition that they left and profitably move freight, because at the end of the day, whether it's on your shelf or at your doorstep, it came on a truck. And DAT has been helping truckers just like you for many, many years. Now, if you're new to DAT, you can follow a little link in the podcast. That link will get you 10% off for your first 12 months for either brokers or for motor carriers. I highly recommend you check it out if you're not already a DAT customer, though chances are you may very well be a DAT customer. Now, let's segue. We'll turn off the music. Where's the button for that? There it is. Look at us go. So let's do a little rehash where we've been last week. In January of 2023, the Federal Trade Commission made an announcement for a proposed rule that would ban non-competition agreements. Now, during the next few months, there was an open comment session for people who wanted to comment on the proposed rule to ban non-competition agreements. For those of you who don't understand or know a lot about non-competes, let me tell you about them. Non-competes are a type of post-employment restrictive covenant. It's a contract that impacts you not while you're working necessarily, but really when you leave, when you go away. And the non-compete has 3 components. The first component is time. How long will it last? It has a geographic restriction. How expansive is the place you can't do something? And lastly, it has a description of the business. What business activity are you personally prohibited from? Now, these impact over 30 million working Americans. Almost 20% of every single person who has a job has a non-compete. If you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, chances are you or someone you know has a non-competition agreement. And if you don't have one, good for you, but it still has impacts on people who don't sign them. FTC estimates that there are billions of dollars a year that are lost in wages for people who can't transition to a new job or start their own company. Now, I don't like non-competes, but I understand why we have them. When you sell a business or if you're a senior leader of an organization, yeah, maybe there's a value in restricting your ability to practice your trade or your craft. But the vast majority of people with non-competition agreements, and again, there are millions of them, are typically people making under $15 an hour. Oftentimes, they're given less than a couple of days to review a non-competition agreement, and they're given these things, after they've accepted the offer to come work for you. And so, if you have this situation of so many people bound by documents they don't understand, and then being prohibited from doing their trade or practice, that's an interesting conundrum. So what happens if you end up violating a non-compete? Well, it's pretty straightforward. If you are found to have violated a non-compete, you're given a letter, typically a cease and desist letter that says, hey, if you don't stop this job, we're going to sue you. Now, the former company you worked for may also send a similar letter to your new company, your new employer, saying the same thing. If you do not cease working with this person, we will sue you, the new company, for tortious interference with contracts. So you can see how these things get out of hand really rapidly. Well, we have some clarity now. On Tuesday, the Federal Trade Commission announced its rule to ban non-competition agreements. What does the rule mean? Well, the rule basically says once it's part of the Federal Register, 120 days will pass. And after that period, everybody except for a select group of people, which we call senior executives, anybody who has a non-compete, that non-compete is unenforceable. That's 30 million people or around that number that are allowed to compete with their former company. That means they can start a business or go work for a competitor or whatever. It's not that simple, though. Law is so often not as simple as we think it is. So this is the document here that has all of the new pieces, the changes from the notice. And some of these changes I want to walk through so you understand what they are. And then we'll talk about this other thing a little bit more in a moment. The main changes to the first rule is around senior executives. Now, the commission defines a senior executive as someone with policy-making decisions and makes over, and this number is specific, $151,164. So if you're making over or at $151,164, you could be in a position where your non-compete stays with you, especially if you're a decision-making authority. So C-level, think C-suite and think over $151,164. That is going to be people who will continue to have the non-competes. After the 120 days, though, you're not going to be allowed to make somebody who's a senior executive sign a non-competition agreement. Essentially, only people who own businesses and sell businesses can be bound by a non-compete. That's what the law says. What's happening? Well, true to form, during the comment section, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce posted a comment, and they said, in a nutshell, we don't think you have the authority to do this. What's more, if you do, FTC, make this rule, we will sue you to enjoin, pause the rule. Well, they did that. Right here in my hand is the complaint filed in the Eastern District of Texas, Tyler Division. Interesting, we have Tyler Harden coming on in a moment, to enjoin and seek to stop the rule. We knew this would happen. This is a thing we call the major questions doctrine. What it really boils down to is the Supreme Court of the United States has said in other cases, not this one, but others, if a federal agency is going to try to make a rule that has a massive economic impact or it's very political, we think that that rule should not be done by the agency. Instead, Congress, the legislative branch, should actually affirmatively say, we think this agency has this rule and therefore they're allowed to make it. If this thing goes to the Supreme Court, the FTC rule banning non-competes, I think that it's ultimately not going to be successful. I think SCOTUS, if they take the case up, will look at it and say, I don't think the FTC has this authority. And it stands for that same kind of rationale that they really don't trust the administrative agencies. They don't believe that agencies have this kind of power. Now, I have to couch this a little bit because at any moment as this thing unfolds, Congress could certainly step in and make a law that would actually ban non-competes and wouldn't be subject to an attack by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. There is an act in Congress right now called the Workforce Mobility Act. If you care about this issue and you're worried that it might not actually become a law as a result of litigation, there are things you can do. You can call your congressman. You can write them a letter or an email. They listen. They watch. They care. But this is the story. And I am going to continue to follow this because that's what I do. I love understanding the law. But here's the thing that we don't talk a lot about in this industry. heavy duty maintenance and repair. Now, I'm going to set the stage before I let Tyler come on and talk about TTN and his career in this industry. Every single year, we have a thing called International Roadcheck. The Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance puts on this program where we inspect commercial vehicles all across North America. Thousands and thousands and thousands of vehicles are inspected, sometimes up to 60 or 70,000 vehicles inspected during this time period. And every single year, a percentage of these things fail. They're just unsafe at any speed. Now, if you're not in the industry, this number is going to surprise you. And I advise you to be sitting when I say this. During the International Roadcheck, 1 in 5 commercial vehicles, about 20% of them, will fail. Not failing because they are have a little issue or a defect. No, these are out of service, unsafe at any speed. Call the mobile mechanic, call the heavy wrecker. This vehicle is not moving until it is fixed. Now, these are highways that you're on, and these are highways that I'm on, and we have to understand that maintenance is something that allows vehicles to safely deliver freight on time and undamaged. And yet, a significant portion of these vehicles are simply not maintained or aren't at the level they need to be to meet the minimum safety requirements to operate on the road. Now, I have known Tyler Harden for a little while. He is one of the leaders in this industry when it comes to what happens when everything goes wrong. And as so many people often say, if you fail to plan, you better plan to fail. Let me introduce Tyler Harden. How are you, my friend?
Hey, buddy. Doing well. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you because you are the chief product officer for a company that I deeply admire, TTN Fleet Solutions. But for the people who don't know who you are you and what do you do?
Cool. Yeah. So let's see. I'll start with background first. We'll start with family first.
Let's do that. Absolutely.
Family's important, right? Family's important to me. So my family has been in roadside assistance and towing for 3 generations. I'm 3rd generation now.
Good for you, man.
Grandfather and grandmother started a small towing company in Bakersfield, California. Got to put the Bakersfield plug in there.
There you go.
It's the Texas of California. So it's funny that I moved to Texas. And if anybody knows California and they know where Bakersfield is located, climate similar.
I lived in Sacramento for a bit, and I grew up in Riverside, in Moreno Valley area. So I know a little bit about California.
So Sacramento's like the Dallas of Texas, I guess. It's got more trees. That's Bakersfield, not so many trees in Bakersfield, unless they're planted on purpose. So yeah. But yeah, so started a company there, and they grew it from 1968 was the first year.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the way up until 1997, as my father took over. And then in 2004, I came in and we added a service to our service offering at the time was just towing, both heavy duty and light duty.
Yeah.
And that service was mechanical repair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is my passion. I went to Universal Technical Institute, which is, a fantastic trade school.
Absolutely.
No formal education, school of getting your hands dirty and figuring stuff out, problem solving. So
what I love about that, Tyler, is like we have a shared kind of story here because I've been in trucking, a 3rd generation guy too. My grandfather was hauling grain and my father got into maintenance, and his first job out of college was with Roadway back in 1976. So I love this thing we hear so often in this business is we don't get in here by accident. A lot of us have connections. And what in the world would make you want to do this business?
No, that's why. Yeah, does anybody choose this? I don't know.
We choose not to do other things. I think that's what ends up happening.
Well, it's a fantastic industry to get into, and I love technical opportunities to bring solutions, and so I use the problem solving skills that I learned as a mechanic and install them now into business, with business and with our service offerings that we have to fleets and our partners all across the nation that that service the truck. So we'll get into that later. But yeah, the family business. Yeah, I was brought up in it. I cleaned out lean sale cars. I worked on the shop floor. Little story. My first job changing a turbo on a Series 60 Detroit was my father's truck. Turbo came apart.
There you go.
So I said, "Don't worry, Dad. I got you. I got this." And
Did you have any diagnostic manuals or like all the things you need for this?
I had done it on a bench a lot of times at school. So I figured I got this, right? So jumped in there, and boy, there's a little thing called the charge air cooler or the intake of the truck, and it's got to be clean. Can't have contaminant in it.
That's right. No debris in there. Absolutely.
So that was a step I missed. I put a brand new turbo on this thing, did not clean any of that out. It made it down the street and blew the second turbo. So
how much does a turbo cost? Because that's a thing. Like
well,
the cost.
Man, they've changed a lot. Now
That's
they're
right.
$6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 depending
That's
on the truck. Back then, luckily, I know it was $1,247 to be exact because I had to purchase one. So
man, this is the thing about like maintenance is so interesting. So we've kind of done this, like we've taken shop class out of schools. There's not as many opportunities to learn how these motors work, and the parts, the sensors, the harnesses. There's so much now that can go wrong with a modern truck. That's why I like trailers. Trailers are big boxes with tires.
Trailers are starting to get a lot of technology put on them.
I know. You're right. You're not wrong. I mean, they have the telematics. They have.
I would say this, man. I love trade schools. I absolutely just think that there is such a need for people to offer a service and learn how to work with their hands. And be able to have something that they know they can do, their abilities that they know they can do to provide for their families.
That's right.
That's a big thing. And so anyway, kind of fast forward. Personally, I love fitness. Little known fact, but my wife and I own a CrossFit gym here locally in Texas.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's a dangerous type of thing. CrossFit. I'm 39. I don't want to do things that will hurt me.
Well, I mean, I could coach you up, buddy. I could show you where to be and how to do. So it's all good. But there's some fundamentals inside of CrossFit, and there's kind of three that pop, and it's consistency, mechanics, and intensity. And if you look at those three elements, it's nice because you can apply them to lots of different things. So we'll apply them to maintenance since you talked about road check.
That's right. Absolutely. We love
it's a love-hate relationship with me. I mean, somebody's got to fix all the 1 and 5 that fail.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But mechanics, consistency, and intensity, right? So you talk about your mechanics, the plan when you're plan maintenance and you're looking at those things, try not to have the failures. But when you do have the failures, there's in the mechanics, you can put in plans to that when you do fail, you have a plan, right?
That's
and the intensity is how intense can you be on your maintenance so you don't have those problems.
Absolutely. This is the thing, like in this market, when markets are weak or they're not getting the kind of revenue you'd expect for a trucking company. You can't cover your costs. The first thing you defer, the first thing you say, I'm going to wait. It's maintenance. Right. It's always maintenance. Say, I'll do the PM in 2 months. I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it later. And these are bills that have to be paid, not today, but they get paid eventually. Sure. So tell me, like, what does TTN do? What is it? What is the problem that you guys solve today?
Yeah, sure. So, for us, we are the liaison between fleets and the service network.
Yeah.
And you could kind of call us a service brokerage, but that would be kind of dumbing down a little bit of what we do, because we're capturing more data than you would if you did it in-house. In-house, you're going through the regular motions of the day, and you're just like, all right, I got to take care of this trailer that's at this scale house that's out of service, and I'm just going to get a guy out there and they're going to fix it, and I'm going to deal with it later. So walking through the process, some of the largest fleets in the country use us as a maintenance breakdown strategy,
Yeah,
and they use it in different ways.
I think about like is like the idea of focusing on core competency.
Yeah,
So there are trucking companies that are incredible, monumentally amazing at safely delivering freight on time, but maybe they're not the best in the world at managing a network of tow providers, heavy duty mechanics. And
sure.
you can learn that. Like there's like, let me be very clear. If you're a fleet out there, like you can learn this. You
Yeah,
good luck. It's
yeah,
very hard, but you have to know not only who's a good provider in a market, but you have to know what their core competency is in terms of like what parts and things you may need or what kind of services you would require. So you guys are kind of the expert consultants. And I think the brokerage way to look at it is pretty compelling. I mean, you are providing a ton of value in the service of that white glove experience where something goes wrong. And
yep.
it's nice to have a single number you can call to solve that.
Right. So consolidation of the driver intake of a concern. That's a big one, right?
Yeah.
Driver experience. So we're enhancing that driver experience by having a call intake. We do that a number of ways. We can do it via phone. We can do it via app technology. We can tie into whatever existing platform you have in the cab. And that comes over and then we manage the event. But going into kind of the management of vendors or a management of event, we've got we are the subject matter expert here with regard to how do you manage the event, what steps do you take, what approval processes are in place, what service protocols. That's
Yeah.
a big one. Service
Absolutely.
protocols.
Absolutely.
And then the network is managed and has got a quality score on it. So this is kind of a big one where that's what fleets probably don't do is score their providers. They might have a lot of people to choose from, and they maybe know that this guy is going to take care of me. But what's his actual quality is delivering? How fast does he respond? How many times is he available? And does he get you billing timely? And that's the other
Yeah.
one. How do you know the cost in a timely fashion?
And
So
that's a great thing you bring up is like when people think about unplanned maintenance, they typically think it's a one-off call. I do it one time. I'm not worrying about this in the future. But to your point, like what you're really looking at measuring is average time on the call. Like how fast do you answer? How fast do you dispatch? Average time before the provider gets on site. And all of these things can be measured and tracked. And if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. So the value ultimately becomes like, how do I get the most efficient network to solve this problem? And that is what kind of drives that flywheel. Why fleets come to TTN, because they don't want to do it and they want to work with an expert who knows how to do it. Let me ask you this, like, so you were on the provider side. So one of the interesting things about what you do, you personally, so you have been on the maintenance side, you've been on the provider side, and now you're the managing of the providers. What does that relationship look like? Are providers looking at the breakdown companies going, yeah, you're taking all my revenue? Or is it more like this is a partner who helps generate revenue for me?
yeah, what I hope to portray is that we are a partner with them to generate more revenue and more opportunity, right? We're getting work from a wide lane of different fleets, and not just different fleets, but we have products for insurance companies, we have products for OEMs, and so we want to make sure that we reward our network and our providers that have a good score in our network when they're doing the service, more and more and more opportunity. And so we have plenty of stories where a local guy starts out with 2 or 3 service trucks, and now they're 5, 6, 7, maybe more than 10. Right
Yeah.
now, not just because of us, but I like to think that we were part of allowing that to happen. So yeah, I think I like to say that we have a great relationship with service providers, and that we're here to help them grow. Just like any brokerage would want carriers and good carriers to perform well for them. It's a similar kind of fashion.
What's your sweet spot? Is it heavy duty? Is it medium duty? Is it cranes? Is it high rail? Is it light
Yeah.
duty? Like,
So
what's the wheelhouse?
predominantly we focus on 6, 7, and 8. I mean,
Okay.
that's our focus today, and we have some new products that are going into the smaller classes. We're going to stick, I think, to commercial. We've had opportunities to go B2C. I think we'll stick with B2B, so we'll stay on that commercial side. So no matter what, even if we do go down in the smaller class range for vehicles, we'll still apply the same workflow and technology that we would to a 6, 7, and 8 class.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I've had experience on the B2C call center space, and as much as I love to help consumers with their RVs,
Yeah.
I just don't have a network that could support that. That was a different kind of world. But as you talk about the class 6, 7, 8, like the innovation in that space is mind-boggling. I think back to like when, we started having the emission stuff. We had diesel particulate filters and EGR coolers and list off all these things. You have to stay on top of all of this, don't you?
Absolutely. And yeah, like I'll give you an example. We've got some fleets that utilize some onboard notifications for maintenance, right? We're intaking those and either deciding to dispatch and repair or tow to a dealership. They're newer trucks, obviously, so they've got some warranty there. Or it's hey, can they schedule that driver with operations to get into one of their shop locations? So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of those notifications coming over. And I mentioned trailer technology. We've got a fleet that's working on some trailer technology that there's 13 new sensors on a trailer.
I love it. Oh,
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. So it's a great thing, but it's causing opportunity. I won't call it a weakness, but it's causing an opportunity there. So yeah,
there's nothing more like I love talking about trailer connectivity, because one of the things I think is so interesting is when they came out telematics for trailers, they said, okay, we can ping it and tell you where it is twice a day, and people were like, that's magic. That's amazing. I would love this. And now it's tire pressure monitoring systems. There's load sensors, door sensors, temp sensors. What other sensors do they need on a big old box?
Yeah, man, it's unique in a space in an industry. I think if you looked at manufacturing, there's a lot of that stuff happening, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of the machine kind of notification. And so they're kind of entering in that. But now you've got this workload that you have to decide on whether or not it's something that you need to action on.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you send a mobile mechanic out because it says a light is missing or light's not working?
Yeah. So I think there's going to be some learning curve on that. And those are some of the challenges that we're looking to help fleets with, help customers with, to solve, and then show the opportunity on the other side with the service providers about how they could, maybe adjust their business model as well.
Well, for you, like what moment in your career did you realize like you're stuck in supply chain? Did you realize that yet? Or are you still thinking, oh, you can get out, you can go do anything you want to do?
Yeah. I think that I'm confident. I love to solve problems and make things efficient. And so I'm confident that I can continue to do those things inside of this industry. So that's maybe why I stick here. I mean, I feel like there's so much growth that's happened, but there's like an unlimited amount that is about to happen.
I look at this, like I think about what you do at TT, and I think like one of the things that really gets me excited is automation. I find the concept of autonomous trucks just absolutely fascinating. Yeah. And last year, the FMCSA put out this thing called the Supplemental Advanced Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. It's a legal jargon, but it boils down to they want to make a rule about robots. And there's this level 4 automation, which is a remote operator, and this level 5, which is remote assistant. And I think, when do you need a remote assistant? Well, if a law enforcement wants to seize paperwork, like what you do really jives with that remote assistant, or maybe someday the remote operator aspect, where you can be that helper connecting the truck to the people that need to know about the truck. Have you spent much time thinking and worrying about this?
Yeah. So, man, have you been in a 2024 Freightliner Cascadia?
I have not. No, I have not. I've seen them. I'm going
to hook you up. I'm going to get you in a 2024
yes.
Cascadia so you can see it. But in the new vehicles now, they've got the OLED displays in the new cars, right? Like, yeah. I don't know, there's the Mercedes and the Escalades, and they've got all those fancy stuff. That truck has that.
Okay.
It's wild. It's got heads-up display. They have mirrors because our good old FMCSA says you have to have a certain square inch of mirror.
Absolutely. These regulations are very good. They're very reasonable.
But they also have what amount to basically an 8x16 screen on each A-pillar. and you can see everything. You can see the top of your trailer. You can see down the side of
incredible.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. So to me, I realized that there possibly is a practical application for any remote driver or remote assistance, and then sitting in that truck going, yeah, this is possible. I've driven a sim race car on iRacing. I don't know if you've ever done that. Sims like Gran Turismo. You seen the movie Gran Turismo?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I played Beat Saber on the Oculus. That's about the
He's a
extent of my
sim
virtual
driver.
reality.
So like, I don't know, like my mind instantly goes to, all right, we have an office building crisis happening because everybody's remote.
That's right.
Why not put driver simulators in all these office buildings and then have these remote vehicles driving all over the place? I mean,
that's what's going to happen.
It scares the life out of me, but I feel like it's possible.
Well, like to your point, like I asked myself, like, okay, so if we go into a hypothesis that 1 in 5 commercial vehicles just aren't safe and they're on the road now,
right? Yeah.
Will the autonomous vehicles have more or less inspections? I have to think we're going to have more. I have to believe at the end of the day, you're not going to have a robotic truck on the highway without having a robust inspection process. And to your point, like the military pilots drones now, like flying airplanes, like that, that exists today.
Yes.
So it's not like it's a nice what if, like it's certainly possible. The question becomes like, how much longer will safety drivers be in that cab? Yeah. And we don't know exactly when it'll happen, but there's no question, like this is where the future is going. And all those connected trailers, they got to have some robot pulling them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think before we even get there, we have to acknowledge this, the PEHV, thing that's happening in California where the plug-in hybrid thing.
Yeah.
And so
CARB is very reasonable, Tyler. How dare you?
Absolutely. They're totally reasonable. But I mean, I'm already changing some business models in that state to, look at some gas engine work because I feel like these fleets are going to be buying some gas engines. And that's on the smaller side, but not on the big side, obviously. And then obviously EV. So there's some alternative fuel stuff coming. There's the autonomous technology or driver drone technology, I guess you might call it. But I agree with you. I think there's all opportunities in trying to keep these things up and down the road. But the stat of 1 to 5 trucks failing, I mean.
I use the analogy, like imagine if I'm a grocery store and I have 5 gallons of milk and I say one of these gallons is unsafe, but I don't know which one it is. You'd be like, I choose not to buy milk from you. And they'd be like, yeah, that's a reasonable thing, but you don't get to choose that in the United States when it comes to heavy duty. That's just how it is. I'm curious, like with the EV side. So you're in California. I mean, your company, one company you have is based in California, and CARB has mandated newer motor types and more efficient, and EV is this thing. I don't think the California grid as it sits could support those types of
absolutely not. No.
Okay, so we have one challenge, but what goes wrong with an EV? This is the thing I think about. So like a mechanical diesel engine has, let's say 2,000 components. It's going to take a number. An EV motor has like 20. It's a magnitude difference. Yeah. What are the types of things that you see that fail on an electric vehicle that would require some sort of assistance? Besides, I guess, tires maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So theory on this, I'm going to spit.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We're improv here.
So the CAT 3406E, was an electronic motor before there were mechanical motors. Okay. And the 3406E came out and they had an ECM on the side of it and a throttle position sensor and it had all this stuff. And guess what failed, Matt?
What's that?
The electronics.
More sensors, more things that
can go wrong. Electronics failed. Those failed. Now they got a lot of stuff right? So it grew and grew and grew and grew. But the electronics that are on diesel combustion engines now are just absolutely crazy. I mean, going back to my time when I went to Universal Technical Institute, we knew a lot about triple EEPROMs and the ECM and the CAN bus and all of the sensors. And we basically got a small software, degree in diesel technology. Right. So now you go into electric. And it's like, all right, well, all that stuff's gone. No, the sensors are crazy.
Yeah.
You got electric motors, you have all kinds of stuff.
I'm going to toss up this from Data to Roadside. Data to Roadside, always good to have you on, man. Tires, motors, sensors. That's
there
it.
You go. Absolutely. It's those are the things that fail, guys. That's what fails. I mean, if you look at a VMRS code and you see the failures on there, you're going to see tires is going to be number one.
That's right.
You're probably looking at brakes and electrical as your top.
I look at it, go, it's the BLTs. It's the brakes, lights, tires. They're delicious on a sandwich, and they are very problematic for moving freight.
Yeah. So, does the total cost of the vehicle to operate change? Man, I don't know. I mean, the things that go away to me are the preventative maintenance schedule, right? The oil changes, lube and filter. That's
exactly. Gone, you're still lubing that chassis, but you're not going to be changing oil. That's for sure.
Yeah. And as far as breakdowns goes, I mean, here's the thing. There's going to be a period in time when there is going to be a lack of understanding of how to fix them roadside.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be solid towing.
I think that might even be what I feel like is happening now. Like if I'm told, hey, I got to check engine light, my truck derated, can you send a mobile tech? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to send a tow truck because that tech is going to be 150, 200 bucks an hour, and he's not going to be able to fix it.
Sure. Well, right now, you typically you'd go and do a check and advise because it could be a lot of different things, right? It could be as simple as a battery connection at the terminal, right? And so you could go out there and look at those things and go, all right, you're ready to go, you're good to go, right? And so the check and advise, I think, is still there. If the EV says that it's got a motor failure or a sensor failure, do you go check and advise, or do you just grab it and take it to the shop?
Worst case scenario, a tow is, you know this better than I do, so correct my numbers. But I think of a mobile technician, you're going to get minimum probably a 2-hour charge to get someone to go to a place, look at it, and then tell you whatever. So you're probably looking at like $400 at least to get a mobile tech to go look at it, not fixing anything. Okay. A tow, I have to think, is like $600 to $1,000 just to take it and grab it.
Well, it depends on how far you want to tow.
Yeah, but that's fair. That's fair.
So the challenge is the downtime and how long do you want to wait? Because what ends up happening is you wait for the service provider to get there, the mechanical service provider to get there. They do their thing. They recognize it needs a tow. Then you wait for the tow truck to show up.
Yeah.
And by the end of that, you've got 3 hours on the front end, 2 hours on the back end. You're 5-6 hours sitting on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So those are the things that you just kind of have to consider. And so anyway, there's lots of different paths that you can take as a fleet, depending on the known circumstances or outlines or service protocols like we talked about.
Yeah.
But for EVs, I have to lean towards the towing side. I think it's going to be a tow heavy event. If you look at your VMRS, you're going to have tow heavy event cost up there.
I love that you brought up the vehicle reporting maintenance standards. I love VMRS. Like, I worked with many customers in the maintenance business myself, where it was mandatory. If you did not give at least the first 6, so there's system assembly component. System assembly. If I didn't do that, they just wouldn't pay me. They'd just be like, "Oh, good try, do it again." Oh, of course, I'd love to.
Yeah.
But there's so few people that understand. I like to describe VMRS as like medical billing, like for insurance companies, but the fleets don't mandate it. But for you, what you guys do take the vendor invoice and you code this. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, what we want to do is make sure that we're recognizing what's happening to the fleet so the fleet can go make the adjustments. That's the way you can do it. So, that's how we prove part of our value is to let them know the services that we're offering. The interesting thing is we get what's called a breakdown concern, and then we get the actual completion details. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those are a little different, know? And so argument might be, well, you VMRS code the complaint.
That's
or
right.
You VMRS code the actual delivery of the service, right? So there's some of those things that you look at. There's reason codes and stuff like that. Do we want to get I don't know, have a VMRS class here or something?
Well, it's a complaint cause correction. Like, this is the thing is, why is our industry so broken? Because again, like, if you have 1 in 5 fail, this is a fundamental failure of the industry. And we know this. We kind of jokingly understand that it costs a lot to move freight. It's very difficult to do. But this idea of like fleets not using the tools at their disposal. So just a moment ago, we were talking about when do you send a diesel mechanic? When do you send a tow truck? If you're a fleet operator who doesn't understand that even question to ask it, you automatically have shown people the value of what you do. But even more than that is, if you don't measure it, if you just say unplanned maintenance and planned maintenance are the same thing, it's a maintenance spend, we're spending 20 cents a mile on trailers. I'm like, what are you talking about? So this value add of taking the data, interpreting the data from the provider, and then making that actionable intelligence that goes to the fleet, that is incredibly valuable. And not enough people do that or even understand how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you asked the question of how it's so broken. I say this all the time. I have drivers of my own. The drivers play a massive role. Driver training is a massive, massive role.
That's right.
And, you got to be able to know when and where you might have an issue and how to handle it, and to give the drivers the resources in order to recognize those things.
Well, let me build off that for a second, Tyler. So again, Data 2 Roadside has a great comment here. He says, how do you handle the complaint from the driver that is sometimes vastly different from the problem? And I have to ask you, because before you answer that question, does TTN offer some kind of driver training to help people understand how to communicate with maintenance professionals?
Yeah, it's a good point. Great question on both sides. So I'll go Data 2 Roadsides real quick.
I'll keep that up for a second.
Yeah. So no information is more valuable than the other. You have to take every piece that you get when you're problem solving and just take them as the facts, right? And just to put them into the place. And how we handle it is real simple. We document exactly what's being said. We manage our service provider and say, look, not real clear about what's going on. You need to tell us what's happening so that we can make a decision together with the fleet and come up with a solution. And then you have the service delivery or service completion. We call them completion details. And then you can kind of look. Now, the other thing that we'll do on a periodic basis is audit for that as well. We'll take, we'll do a quarterly audit and we'll kind of look at stuff and say, hey, your drivers are, we're getting a lot of breakdown concerns for this. And here's what we're actually finding that's happening, and just give them that information. And if they want to make some decisions with it, they can. As far as the driver training, I think it's a good proposition. It's a good thought, Matt. I really do think that's there. I would say that, there's lots of tools for them to be trained and to understand. I mean, the fundamentals behind the DVIR, pre and post. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, man, but some of these guys they don't even know what they're looking at. I mean, they just don't. And so a lot of them are very, very good. And that's the other thing. You have this vast difference between drivers that have been doing it, they're career drivers, doing it forever. They could sit in their truck and literally tell you which tire is low driving down the road. They could, I got trailer tire going on, or I got, something going on just by the sound. So that's right. Yeah. I mean, I think fleets or operators just need to continue to re-educate themselves and understand what's going on and know their vehicle, know what they're moving, know the points of failure. I think that's big.
I think, like, to build off the driver vehicle inspection reports, this idea that a driver is responsible for the asset. We know this. We know they're supposed to do these things, but sometimes they don't. I've had customers over the years who just simply paid my company to go do inspections on behalf of them because the owner-operators that were pulling their trailers just weren't doing the same kind of level of quality. I think the other part I would imagine for you guys, when you're onboarding a new fleet, the kind of resources you provide to the drivers, to the operations, to the safety team is, here's how you work with us. And I have to imagine that's one of the things is important, is teaching drivers how to communicate with your team in order to get the best result possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got a pretty proven intake process where we're asking them questions as they call in, hey, I'm broke down. All right. Are you off the side of the road? The other thing is proximity, safety of the driver. Some of these things break down in the middle of the road.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, then what do you, like, is traffic flying around you? The guy's on the cell phone, that kind of stuff. And so, we want to make sure that they're safe and out of the way. But yeah, the DVIRs, you've got to have a reporting mechanism too. You got to have a way that when a driver notices an issue, you take care of it.
You have to incentivize them. That's the thing. Is like you have to incentivize them to perform the inspections, to then communicate, hey, this thing is unsafe or this has a problem. Are you guys see yourselves doing a lot of like driver write-ups, like not necessarily breakdowns, but like hey, it's back at the yard right now. Here's what we found was wrong with it. Can you help us? That's what you guys do as well.
Turn into breakdowns, right?
Sure.
Like that's more of the unplanned maintenance.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing. They're not necessarily broke down on the side of the road, but they might be in a yard and they're like, hey, I got a brake issue. I can't, I'm loaded.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Usually they're loaded. Usually, hey, it's loaded and the brakes won't release, or I've got an air leak, or I hear air leaking from the back of the trailer, and so, that's a great catch. Could you imagine just guys just pulling out of there, it's loaded.
Are you guys like orchestrating transloading things too?
Well, we will do that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If we need to, we do that for fleets all the time. Load shifts or load transfers. So sometimes things just need to be shifted around.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to International Roadcheck? Is this like Christmas or Thanksgiving rush, or is this something totally different?
Well, I mean, it's productive. I say that, in the Western states, when the heat hits, tires, batteries, and things happen over there, overheats, that kind of stuff. When the weather's bad in the east and southeast or southwest or southeast, sorry, then you've got ice and you've got a lot of the other elements to contend. So, we're diversified in our areas because we're nationwide and in Canada as well. But there's never shortage of things happening roadside.
A lot of people think of me mostly as a lawyer, and they don't know my background as much as on the maintenance side. But I remember so vividly. There's two real seasons. So in the summertime, it's tire and AC season. Like that's what you fix during that time. And then in the winter, it's no start season or brakes locking up. You got to go out there and you got to do those things. And what I love about like what TTN does is not only are you guys like focused on obviously helping people on unplanned events, but you can take that insight and help them be more productive on scheduling, on managed maintenance. Is that like an offering you guys are growing right now?
Yeah, we're at arm's length with managed maintenance or preventative. We've got some great partners in which we actually offer our ERS services to fleet management FMCs. And so for us, we hope that we can collect enough data on the events that happen, and the fleet management manager, whether it's in-source or outsource, uses it to make some adjustments or at least recognize some trends. So that's the plan.
How many events do you guys see in a given day or given week or month? Like how many calls are you guys running just in general?
Well, Roadcheck's going to be wild, right? But storms and happen, so it varies between 350 and we've had as high as 1,000, right? So it just depends on kind of what those look like on a day-to-day basis. And so we have to have the variability and the robustness built into our contact center and to our network to be able to consume those volatility as we go through with the service need. Because drivers are not going to wait for a long time. We got to get somebody out there as quick as we can.
Yeah, the way I've always heard of it is like you have a list of providers in a given market. You're making phone calls, you're making messages, and you're just going down the list until you get it solved. What I love about what you guys do, again, is the scale, the scale of the problem you're tackling. There are millions of commercial vehicles on the road. About 60 to 70% of all maintenance events are unplanned because that's just how we run this industry. And you guys are a partner who's been trusted for such a long time. How long has TTN been in business?
It's been around going on 13 years now.
Okay. Yeah. And it used to be, I remember TTN is the towing network, right?
Yeah. So the roots are the towing. So I was going to put up my plug, but this is my little Chattanooga Wreckers t-shirt. If you're in the Chattanooga area, the Chattanooga Lookouts, it's a baseball team. I guess AAA, maybe AA, or I don't know. What's one of those things. But they're the local team there in Chattanooga. Chattanooga is actually like the towing capital of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which Chat is an awesome place. I got a lot of friends there. I love that place. The Towing Hall of Fame, the Towing and Recovery Hall of Fame is there. The museum. They partnered with Miller Industries, which manufactures tow trucks, to rebrand the team for half a year as the Wreckers.
That's amazing.
Which I love. I think it's
That's
so
incredible.
Cool.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, I think the numbers, it might be different now, but I remember reading it's every 6 days we lose a tow truck operator.
Yeah. Listen, roadside business is, and then we don't even know the stat on mechanical providers, right? But yeah, the roadside. I've had friends that have lost operators, and it's just a very sad thing. And all I can say is, and this is cliche, but safety first, man.
Yeah.
Don't try to put yourself in a position to where you're going to be opened up for that. But sometimes, like I said, these things break down in the center of the lane. And so I have a lot of respect and just gratitude towards those guys that jump sitting on that white line, man. And the other thing is move your over, man. Just move over.
Absolutely. Give truckers, give wreckers as much space as you possibly can.
Anybody roadside. I don't care if it's a small car. We're training kids now to drive. I'm that old.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, we're training kids that drive. So move over, have the common courtesy and the understanding that, you're going to fly by them. Anything can happen. So anyways.
We live in one of the most distracted societies ever. The ability to have a supercomputer in your hand. And to your point, that when you see something like this happening, the goal is always give truckers more space, give roadside or give emergency responders as much space as possible. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a level of people who get injured. And we as an industry need to celebrate the risk that these men and women are taking to go on the side of the highway, helping essential workers keep moving. And I can't emphasize enough just how dangerous a job it is to be a tow operator, not just by getting hit by somebody, but just the nature of that business is very, very challenging. So Absolutely. Building that network and giving providers that kind of courtesy, that's phenomenal.
Yep.
What are you most excited about coming up in the industry?
Oh, what am I most excited about? I tend to get excited about a lot of things. That's probably it's probably one of my weaknesses. I'm excited about everything. Everything's the new thing.
I live that world myself.
Yeah. You and I are just like, a lot alike in that aspect. So I would say, I love the forward momentum. I love the business organization. I'm hoping to see, and I'm watching it that the maintenance organizations inside of logistics companies are starting to gain the traction and the importance, right? Like, operations is great and moving freight and millions of tons of freight everywhere, but being safe, having good driver experience, having a great career for a driver, which, by the way, the largest driver deterrent is not getting a maintenance item taken care of.
Absolutely.
And so, I think that's a big, big thing, and it's just going to keep our industry rolling. And I love it. I love helping people roadside. I always have.
Do you think your kids are going to get in the business? Have they expressed any interest in supply chain logistics?
If you need an assistant, I got a 13-year-old that would be a fantastic legal assistant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's pretty smart. His one-liners are absolutely on point.
We might be looking for an intern. This might work out.
Yeah, he's very quiet, but when he says something, it's like, ow, whoa, where'd that come from? But so my daughter, she's a star cheerleader and just absolutely is too much like her father. So sorry, Roz. So maybe she gets into maybe she gets into the business.
My favorite memories when my father had a shop in Bedford Park would be to bring my oldest son with me to the shop, and he would hop in our little International we had. It was a single axle. We had a 99, no, it was 97 uh, Ottawa, and
Oh,
that was our yard truck, and he
there
would
you
sit in the back of that like that. I just such fond memories, and I think
go.
you can't get out of this industry. I mean, once you're in it, you're in it. And
Yeah, it's kind of
third
hard.
generation, we're both third generation here. I just don't think there's a way any of us can escape this business.
Yeah, well, we went through a statistic, man. We're one percenters. So 1% of third generation sticks with what their family started with. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So that's a pretty good stat. We're
Man,
exceptional,
good for
Matt.
you,
We're
man.
exceptional.
That's it's just such a cool thing to hear the story of somebody who kind of cut their teeth early on in the business. The family ties to helping truckers safely deliver freight on time is very compelling. I am so excited to have you on the program. Where can people find more from you or more about TTN?
Sure. Well, I'm always open. You guys can hit me on LinkedIn. I'm on there. And then ttnfleetsolutions.com. You guys can check out the website. If you got any questions, I'd be happy to ask. And my team's on there too. They get the sales team, the product team, our technology team. So anybody's available for conversation for sure.
Well, I will make sure to put all of that into the show notes. People can learn more about what you're up to. Tyler,
Cool.
it has been an absolute pleasure. Are there any shows, conferences you're going to? Anything in the near future you're thinking about?
I'll be at the TMCs and stuff and the tow shows. I don't know if you guys know that, but tow shows, they're a thing.
I've never been to any tow shows. I've been to TMC quite a bit, but I have not been to a tow show.
Yeah, tow shows. Tow shows are coming up. They've gotten in August. There's a bunch of them in September. There's actually the Tennessee Tow Show in Chattanooga, which I might go to. It's September 27th and 28th. That's September 27th is my birthday. So yeah, but tow shows are fun. They're a blast.
I love the heavy wreckers are amazing pieces of equipment. These are like $400,000, $800,000 behemoths with massive cranes. Like those are sensational trucks, and I love to see them. I've never been in one, but I certainly would like to.
Man, we have to expose you a little bit now.
I've been in thousands of trailers.
Yeah, I know you have. Yeah, it's trailers.
That's the thing I know.
You've been locked in a utility every once in a while.
I've never been locked. No, actually, I had a manager lock me in because he thought it would be funny. They love to cause me problems. Well, Tyler, I appreciate you, man. Stick around for a moment. I'm going to say goodbye to those people, but again, I appreciate you jumping on and talking with us today.
You're awesome, buddy.
My pleasure, my friend. Well, that's it, everybody. Let me press some buttons. Give me a second. We got to do this thing. Got to do the outro. Safely delivering freight on time and undamaged is difficult even under the best of circumstances. And companies like TTN and people like Tyler are out there trying to help you as a driver get yourself back on the road. And the goal for everybody in this industry, I don't care who you are, if you're a broker, a shipper, a maintenance provider, a trucking company, the goal we all have, the shared goal that we all have is that everybody who's involved with the transportation of products gets home in the same condition that they left. We really do fundamentally believe that safely delivering freight on time and undamaged is something we all need to strive for. And that is giving tow operators, giving truckers plenty of space when they're on the roads. And again, if you're looking to understand more about TTN and how they can help you with the unplanned maintenance events that impact every single one of us, please reach out to Tyler and the folks at TTN. I'm a huge fan. Now, look, the reality is this is something that I love to do. I've been making podcasts now since 2022. I've been talking about non-competes far, far longer than that. But I am so overjoyed by the partnership that I have with DAT, Dial a Truck. This industry is made by organizations that have found a problem that they are passionate about solving. And there is no organization that I know more passionate about helping truckers find profitable loads and helping brokers secure capacity than DAT. So if you are new to DAT, please take a look at the links below. And obviously, you might already have a relationship with that. Keep using them. They're a phenomenal company, and they are a proud sponsor of our little podcast we keep doing. And of course, the Disembodied Head. Great job today. Always a pleasure to have you a part of this. Thank you again for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next time. And then I end it.